This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Fan.
Want to chime in on what's happening with your favorite KFAN program? Make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
Producing 9 to noon today and doing wonderful work. PA in charge. Go back to full strength. Alec Lewis at Alec_Lewis via Twitter, via the X Machine. He's nice enough to come in studio on this beautiful Friday in the cornfields. Covers the Minnesota Vikings for The Athletic and theathletic.com. Subscribe if you are so inclined. Charch and I
am inclined.
Charch and I were in from the beginning, man. Alec has a podcast, the Alec Lewis Show podcast. I watch it and or listen to it via YouTube, but you can learn more about it via Alec_Lewis. And his Twitter feed. Now, Alec's back from West Palm Beach in the owners' meetings. What were you guys talking about before we went to break?
The
24?
odds of trading back.
Give it to us.
You said 60%.
Yeah, I'll say 60%.
I think that's a fair number. Like I wouldn't argue you that. I mean, I think really the question is with the talent in this draft, and you know this because you've read about it and followed it and probably watched some of these guys, but like the consensus would be that there's probably a couple handfuls of elite players, and then there's like a drop off of just a ton of starters that are pretty clumped together from like 10 to like 50. Yeah. And that's a very wide range. So the question would be, are there teams behind the Vikings, picking behind the Vikings, that would target a specific player and want to come up to do that? Or are there teams maybe picking like early in the second round that want to get back in to get a quarterback on the 5th-year option? Because it sounds like right now, I'd be fairly surprised if Cleveland drafted a quarterback at number 2 The Giants at number 3 is interesting because their owner is just very involved. But if neither of those teams takes a quarterback, then they're picking at the top of the second round. They might want to get back in, and 24 would be a spot for them to come in. But then if you're the Vikings, you got to weigh, would you rather just take a pick at 24 where you have the 5th-year option with that guy, or would you want to draft in the second round? I know 5th-year option, it's a lot of jargon, but it's an important little...
It can be, although typically, if you're a really good player, you don't even get to the 5th year anyway. You got your new deal after 3 years if you're really good. And so I've always felt like the 5th-year option thing is usually the players that get the 5th-year option invoked are guys who've really underperformed, but you're not quite ready to cut bait on them entirely yet. So
like a Darasol was extended before that was ever a conversation.
Perfect example.
And I think if you were able to get, let's say, you're picking at 24, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, they don't want to trade up. So you're like, okay, well, if there's a guy we think we could get at 33 or 34 and trade back with Cleveland or New York, and we could get another day 2 pick, a couple what have you day 2 pick, like it'd be pretty enticing. But I do know this, just coming off West Palm, like they're not just going to trade back to just get darts to throw. They know they have to get value out of this draft. And if that entails picking a player who performs for them at number 24, then that's what they're going to do.
Here's why I'm laughing. Alec has been on the beat now 3rd year, right? Into your 4th.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, I mean, now it's not, and here's what was learned in Florida at the owners' meetings. Here's what was said at West Palm.
I always love that.
It's West Palm.
No, but
seriously, man, you sound like a local.
No, it switches. Yeah. Well, I was down in Florida for like 5 days.
Lucky.
I don't know. It was.
Does everybody stay at the same hotel?
No, there's
that hotel there. That's the bomb, man.
It was at the break.
Funny, the owners stay in a nice hotel.
It was at the break. The owners' meetings is so silly. Like I'll just give you this because I'm sitting there on Monday afternoon writing after we talked to Kevin and Mark Wilf, and I'm like in the lobby just writing, just at a desk by myself, and there's a chair across from me, no one's sitting in. And all of a sudden, this guy plops down. And
How is Ben Johnson?
I look up, and it's David Tepper.
Jeez.
And he's just sitting there scrolling on his phone. And I'm kind of like...
Did he throw a beer at you?
Not yet. But no. So here's the story. So he's sitting there scrolling on his phone. Nobody's talking to him. And I'm kind of like, he's got Bryce Young, Alabama guy. I'm from Alabama. What is the worst thing that happens if I say something?
Yeah.
So I toss some stuff at him, and he's like scrolling on his phone. He's like, "Who is this kid just asking?" And he kind of clowned me. There's a fuller story that I'm not going to tell on the air because I kind of got.
Come on,
no, but we can paraphrase and it's.
At one point, I'll say this. At one point in the conversation, this is not a great reflection, but at one point in the conversation, David Tepper says to me, "Are you just a kid here in the lobby? Or are you an actual reporter?"
Right. See, that's after Alec praised Bryce Young.
David Tepper
and then David said, "Look, I follow your reporting. Don't tell anybody, but his veteran backup actually is going to be Aaron Rodgers."
I always love that.
And then it started anew.
No, it's not. No, so, and the other thing he said to me, we were going back and forth about drafting Bryce Young and that draft and trading back and all this stuff, or trading up, excuse me. And he said, and I promise you, he said this to me. He's like, there's this thing that you could use called Google. And I'm like, this is great. This guy has been awesome.
Like, you know what? I've read some stories. There's a thing you can use called class.
I always love it.
And clearly, some people have money, but they don't have sense.
No, but that's the funniest thing is I'm at the owners' meeting, sitting in the lobby, talking to David Tepper, net worth $20 billion.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like scrounging for a lunch at Crispin Green. So the owners' meetings is wild. It's not always in West Palm Beach. It was in Arizona.
Yeah. At the Biltmore.
Biltmore, and then last year it was in Orlando at the Ritz-Carlton. But you've got it's a silly experience. It's almost like a fake world.
But what's silly about being able to sit around tables with every general manager, every head coach, owners are readily available. I've never been. All right. And I've never been to a Super Bowl either. So I don't know what that whole rigmarole's like up to the Super Bowl. But we've been to myriad combines, likewise for you. This just seems swanky and super cool.
It's as swanky and cool as you could possibly get. They have a party on the Monday night of the owners' meetings where somehow the media are invited. So you're like, I don't even care. The party was moved inside because it was raining.
Yeah.
So you've got like 3 gigantic ballrooms with Shad Khan's mustache and other people. And I'm like sitting in a room drinking an old fashioned, talking to some of the Vikings writers. And here comes Nick Sirianni in a polo eating noodles off a plate.
That's phenomenal.
It's the most. It's just. It's swanky.
It's pretentious.
It's pretentious, but it's also like. It's just a fake world. Like all of a sudden you're standing there and Howie Roseman walks up with sunglasses and you're standing there and Arthur Blank's like waddling through the lobby. It's just silly. I mean, it's like Jerry Jones is in there talking to, and it's a one of a kind opportunity that somehow the media are able to go to, but it was really good for conversations with O'Connell. He sat with the beat writers on Monday, and then Mark Wilf did as well, and Kwesi was around as well, so it was good.
What I like about the owners' meetings, you get accessibility to people you don't always get access to, and we're far enough from the season where they're not lying all the time. They're only lying some of the time, because there's still a lot of unknowns out there, and I think you get a little more straight answers this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, they can talk freely about free agency, and that's what they wanted to do and had wanted to do for a month, which obviously the quarterback conversation made it difficult to talk about Will Fries, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Allen, Isaiah Rodgers, Rondale Moore, Jordan Mason, all of the additions that they made. So it was a lot of that. But then, you still get, when you wade towards the draft conversation of what are you guys thinking, you get a little bit of maybe this, not really sure. We could do this, but we might not. You get a lot of, like, I saw a quote from Les Snead, who's the GM of the Rams, where he's like, would we take a quarterback? Maybe. Is this what I would say if we also might not take a quarterback? So you get some of that.
And Charchie, one thing that's changing. Now, you haven't been to the last few combines, but the season, it's going longer than we used to go to the combine. So we got the Super Bowl now, first Sunday in February. So kind of a behind the scenes, as the kids would say, low key common thread with the combine this year was, before all these interviews, I or we do, was specifically with like O'Connell or Kevin Stefanski or some others. Now, Stefanski was different because he has the 2 spot. But most of them were like, look, season ended. It's an unbelievable grind, as we know. Coaches get time off, so yes, they have draft prep, but it doesn't necessarily mean all the coaches have assimilated, what their approach is for when they get interviewed at the combine. They're head first into recovery mode. Okay, they're there.
Yep.
And now free agency, which was around the corner. And so therefore at the combine, you just don't get the right people and the right depth with the draft at that stage. At the owners' meetings, you should be able to get that.
Well, the other thing is, it's hard to know how free agency is going to sort out. And then how it does sort out usually dictates where you're going to be in the draft and what needs you're going to have and what positions you're going to target. And that's really one of the most interesting things about this Vikings draft is it's just so, you guys are talking about positionally, interior offensive line, interior defensive line, defensive back, safety. It's just, I would have thought coming out of free agency, it's like, okay, they didn't re-sign Byron Murphy, so they probably need a cornerback, and Jahdae Barron is a versatile guy where if he's there, that makes sense. But
there he is.
They really found a way to fill so many needs to where it could go a lot of different ways at the end of April, and that's fun for us to talk about because you're sorting through a lot of different prospects. Like yesterday morning, I'm watching Ohio State, Oregon early season film of Donovan Jackson, the left guard, who is incredibly impressive. And so like it's the cool part. And then I'm watching safety film, Eman Wari, Malachi Starks, Kevin. I've done a lot of just watching, and I try to verify it from what I read from the draft analysts. Just fun for me to kind of see how things match up. So this draft conversation is fun because you go a ton of different ways. Because
Kwesi feels like Kwesi filled the big needs, and I give him credit for that. And maybe I was wrong. When I went through and season ended, I'm looking at, okay, we need interior offensive line. We need defensive line, especially getting a pass rush from our defensive tackle would be great. Need cornerback help. And he hit all of those. The only move that I'm a little disappointed is that Cam Bynum got out the door. And
got a lot of money, man.
Not on a huge deal.
Yeah, that guaranteed money was a lot.
He got 4 years. Cam Bynum got 4 years, $60 million. If it came down to Jonathan Allen at the same $60 million, 3 years, $60 million instead of 4 years, $60 million. If it came down to Cam Bynum or Jonathan Allen because of age, I would have rather have kept Cam Bynum, who I thought really splashed and had a number of the development was really good. That's the one move. If I've got to keep dollars about the same, that's the only thing I think I would have done differently.
It's interesting. I love Cam. I mean, he was one of my favorite players to cover. Sure. I'll never forget 2022 week 2 in Philadelphia. Quez Watkins, you've talked about it a million times.
Middle of the field.
Yeah, middle of the field.
Play.
And I remember that was Cam Dantzler's fault. And Cam Bynum, after the game, he took ownership of it. He got criticized during the game and he took ownership of it, but he knew in his mind that was a Cam Dantzler situation. I thought Cam really, you felt over the course of the 3 years covering him, like his confidence grew. He came into his own. He really the Brian Flores system, he really worked. He was healthy all the time. He made a ton of tackles. But I would also say, and PA's talked about this, like there was a little inconsistency, maybe a little bit down the stretch.
End,
yeah. And I what I do think is your argument about like age versus Jonathan Allen. Mm-hmm. I think that's a very fair conversation of, would it have been more worthwhile to keep a guy who is younger as opposed to an interior defensive lineman who's older? But I also know, if Jonathan Allen hits and is the player that he showed he was in the playoffs last year, then people around here are going to be very excited. I think we will look back on this free agency period probably in one of two ways. One, just exceptional value creation at positions that they needed, or, they maybe signed too many older guys
players,
who had navigated injuries and that affected them. To me, and I've said this on my podcast, like the two things for this season that could really take this thing to a certain level are obviously quarterback play, but then also durability is going to be a conversation that is essential, and they've been durable, and I give Tyler Williams and that staff a ton of credit. And if they can keep guys healthy and on the field the way they have over the last few years, then they're going to surprise what expectations are, because they have enough talent to do it.
Off Jonathan Allen and what you said, and I think I heard this week from West Palm Beach. It might have been Kwesi 9 to noon on Monday, or maybe when O'Connell spoke or something. But it's like, if you believe the team, Milton Williams, the Eagles defensive tackle, went to New England. Got a boatload.
$26 million a year, I think.
Yeah. So there was something that was said. It's like when the price of poker gets to a certain level, you need to determine, do you want this one card or do you want these two for less or about the same price? So I'm speculating and guessing. They looked at it like Allen and Hargrave in this current situation is a better value for us compared to that one guy.
Plus, signing Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, who were both released, allows you to get the comp pick and put you in the right position from a comp pick perspective, which...
I got to get up to speed on this comp pick thing. You guys are so far down, and you have been for years, and it's all the talk with everything and like what goes into certain things. Like, I'm not even thinking about comp picks when I'm like looking at, hey, Flo Jacko, 40 years of age, he can still sling it. Joe Flacco, but then you got to think the comp pick and the timing.
That's why they haven't added another quarterback at this point, is because if you're adding a Joe Flacco, a Ryan Tannehill in that fashion, and you're paying them, let's say, $5 million a year or $6 million a year, that affects their comp pick situation, and they are in line for at least 2. I think there are some people within the organization who think they're 3, but the comp pick stuff is... Kevin O'Connell said at the owners' meetings, when you start to look at the rules of that stuff, you need Tylenol or Advil, and he's right. It's like...
I tried to read it one time. It's super boring.
It's like calculus.
No, it's boring.
You hit on something that I think is absolutely true. If they're the two measuring sticks for this year J.J. McCarthy, obviously. But the other one, this team's got to stay healthy. They've done a great job. Goise's done a great job of reinforcing these starters. There are very few backups on this team. I feel great about as having to have long service as a starter. Very few at any position. It's hard to find somebody where you're like, well, Walter Rouse has got to go. All right, we're going to be fine. Or if Lucky Jackson needs to, we need 8 games out of Lucky Jackson. This team doesn't feel like it's got a lot of depth to it right now. Staying healthy is just going to be critical. And to their credit, last year, they were healthy. This team had the 5th fewest games lost to injury across the entire league. And if they, hopefully that wasn't just random happenstance. It was because of how this team trains and preps.
And there are certain positions where it really could affect you, like Ryan Kelly, who I'm pumped to watch and observe his command because I think he is.
Where do you play collegially?
Alabama.
I always go ahead.
But I really can't because I think he's going to be huge, both for the entire offensive line, for physicality, for the run game, everything. But he's dealt with injuries, and if he goes down for an extended period of time, what is the plan at center? Michael Juergens, there's optimism in Michael Juergens, but now you're having a guy who's never played with a quarterback who hasn't played.
Right.
Let's say you slide Blake Brandell to center. I mean, how much confidence do you? So to me, there are certain spots where durability, it's going to be more important than others. But I will say this on the interior defensive line, let's say Jonathan Allen or Javon Hargrave goes down for a little bit. I do think there's optimism in, the Levi Drake Rodriguez of the world. I'm blanking on
Jalen Redmond.
Yeah, Redmond. Yeah, Jalen Redmond.
Maybe.
I think they could.
And the draft.
They're right. Yes, and the draft. There is a feel that things could stay afloat in certain respect. But okay. I think the durability is a big conversation.
So with the O-line, the way you laid it out, let's start here. Do you like, from what you've seen, what you know, or what you've heard from the right people? Do you like Gray Zabel from North Dakota State University?
I like Gray Zabel, and I'm of the belief that the Vikings like Gray Zabel.
Okay, and we're in lockstep. So that's an every position on the line guy, but best at guard. At least that's what his coach said Tuesday 9 to noon. He thinks he'll be best. I think I even asked zone schemes, power running, vertical passing in zone situations. He thinks guard would be best, probably left guard. Okay, cool. The Booker, Tyler Booker, Alabama. Is there any center flexibility with him or the Donovan bit that you mentioned 20 minutes ago?
So Tyler Booker, and I love the guy, and Alabama's staff. I mean, he was a rock for them as a leader, but he is a little more of a, I don't want to say stiffer, but more of like a gap scheme, just push off the ball, not a ton of movement. Whereas Donovan Jackson, you'll see on the Ohio State tape that I watched yesterday morning against Oregon, he's pulling, he can move. He had to actually kick out and play left tackle down the late part of the season for Ohio State, and he held his own against some pretty notable players. But I think Donovan Jackson has more flexibility than a Tyler Booker.
Yep.
Zabel probably has more flexibility than the other two to play like center. So I would probably tier them in terms of the fit and the depth option. I think Zabel would probably be at the top, then Jackson, then Booker. But you guys have talked about this. Zabel might not be there at 24. So it's just the draft. This draft is so interesting because I got to tell you, I've watched a lot of guys. And there are just not a ton that are no-brainers to me or incredibly impressive. I watch
24.
Just in the draft in general.
Okay,
Travis Hunter is going to be astounding.
Yeah, of course. Travis Hunter.
But you mean the defensive tackles too, right?
Defensive tackles.
That's so interesting you said that.
So I've watched Kenneth Grant from Michigan.
Yep. I'm very interested in him.
And he's 340 pounds. And there is an idea, I think, externally that from fans and draft analysts, man, he could be like the Dexter Lawrence. It just doesn't, you just don't see that.
Big time.
Even Derek Harmon, who I know the team has met with, think there's going to be more, but he's just a little linear in his movements. Again, I'm not the most elite evaluator of defensive line play in the world, but I'm just observing, and it's not like a lot of these guys are just no-brainer fits that I 100% see.
Yeah.
And it's even at cornerback. Like, as I look at guys, it's not, some guys are athletic, but they're not big enough. Some guys are big, but they don't have the wiggle. It's just, it's hard to get in love with a lot of players in this draft.
You're familiar with, I think I introduced you to him, Pat Kerwin, former general manager. New York Jets.
Yeah, his show on Sirius is outstanding.
I mean, he and Pete Carroll are like borderline best friends. I mean, he's juiced in to a lot of the right people, and he knows how to share when he shares, so he doesn't implicate anybody. But I heard him within the last 10 days kind of lay it out exactly how Alec did he's like, hey, I hear all this about these defensive tackles. And it's not that he's tired of hearing about it, but he's like, he spent 4, 5, 6 hours watching, say, 20 some odd. That's what he does. And then he shares, which we really love. And he said, if you're taking somebody in the first round, okay, as a defensive tackle, well, is he going to wear a gold jacket? That's where you start. Do you believe you're getting somebody who can wear a gold jacket, be Hall of Famer? And he's like, okay, well, for his taste and how he analyzes things, which a lot of people respect, including me, he's like, no, there's not. Okay, so now John Randall got a gold jacket. So he mentioned Randall, but then he went, all right.
Did he really?
Well, wow. Yeah. Well, the gold jacket comparison defensive tackle. He's like, no. Okay, well, what about Aaron Donald? Okay, so let's look for that. And he's like, well, that's not there either. All right, well, is there a Chris Jones? Let's find Chris Jones. Mm-hmm. He said, that's not there either. So he's just be very careful with what everybody's being fed. The short arm bit, the troll under the bridge with Billy Go Gruff and the short arms, that stuff's starting to pop up. But Kerwin was straightforward. He's like, I don't think this class is as good as everybody else says it is. And
at defensive line,
at defensive tackle. Okay.
There's a lot of depth. Like
yeah, right. The top part. Thank you.
It's insane that I will say, but like there are guys that you could probably find day 2, the TJ Sanders of the world. These are deep cuts. Shamar Turner, like Josh Farmer. There are guys. Oregon has a ton of guys besides Derek Harmon, Caldwell, Birch. There are guys there, but it's just JJ Pegues later on from Ole Miss. It just doesn't feel like. I think the hope would be it's a great point. If you take a defensive lineman at 24, you really hope they're just like a bona fide stud. And even like a Derek Harmon, I'm not sure I fully see it. Now, if the team does, you trust their eyes way more than I trust mine evaluating defensive tackles. But it's just an interesting, it's been interesting for me to watch a lot of these players because I'm just like, I'll watch it and I'm like, I can kind of see it, but it's just been interesting.
Alec Lewis, The Athletic, 9 to noon.
Hardcore football.
Yeah, it is.
Friday football.
When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Feast.
Man.
Get ready for a night of high-octane country rock. Brantley Gilbert is bringing his electrifying show to the Ledge Amphitheater on Friday, May 9th. Don't miss out on the action. Get the full details and your tickets now at KFAN.com /calendar.
Into the penultimate on the Friday football feast. It's 11:35. PA in charge reunited today. After a Charge took some time off, Alec Lewis from The Athletic is here. We're chatting about the NFL draft, Charge.
All right, last thing on Vikings potentially moving out at 24. I'm going to give you the scenario I think has legs.
Okay.
You're the Chiefs. You just got demolished in a Super Bowl because you could not block up front. They made a couple of tweaks to their offensive line, including bringing Trey Smith, which is, or I think they may have had Trey Smith, but this team still needs help on line. Maybe Gray's able, maybe somebody else is there at 24. The teams picking after the Vikings need offensive line help as well. I can see a scenario where the Vikings move to 30 with the Chiefs. They pick up the Chiefs' third round pick to move down, roughly 7 spots, or maybe a 4th round pick, which the Vikings honestly need. And that to me is a plausible scenario because the Chiefs are highly motivated to protect Patrick Mahomes in a way that they haven't been able to.
Yeah, totally makes sense. But what I would say is kind of what I mentioned earlier is if there is a player at 24 that the Vikings love.
Sure.
And it is an interior offensive lineman that they think might not be there in 6 spots. To me, although they have 4 picks, they are in a position where they just have to take that player at this point, given where they are and how much they could use the help of a player like that. So let's say Zabel, for example, the Vikings love him, and let's say they love him, and let's say he's gone. They think they can move back to 30 and still get a player they really like while also generating a 3rd or a 4th. That's where the odds to me really climb.
And that could happen. Could happen.
Yeah. Zabel, I will say.
So go ahead.
Gray Zabel, I've seen in certain mock drafts at 17, 18. Now, how much do you really lend credence to some of these mock drafts? Well, a lot of these people are plugged in. So
the teams at 17 and 18 need offensive line help. The Bengals and Seahawks. That is possible. Okay, you're Kwesi. You just saw your head coach get a new deal. You did not. He's in the last year of his deal. He needs to hit this draft because if you don't hit this draft, if this draft goes belly up, the totality of his draft work looks pretty bad, depending a little bit on J.J. McCarthy, maybe even a lot. I think if I'm in Kwesi's shoes and I'm just looking at the only thing I'm looking at is my self-preservation, I want more bullets to fire in the draft in the hopes that I can turn up meaningful players in this draft who can help this team immediately and make it look like I can draft. I don't know, I've gotten better at drafting. Because right now, that's the gaping weak point of Kwesi's resume is his ability to draft. So gotta fix that. And I think he needs bullets. And that's why I think the trade down is likely to happen because he just has to fire more bullets to try to get some of these draft picks to hit.
More bullets are better if you hit the target.
Yeah, well, yes.
But, the problem is if you've got extra bullets and you still miss because the odds are lower to hit the target because you're shooting from further away, then it becomes difficult. And I would say this, and maybe I'm a little naive, but to say this, but I really, of all people in that type of role, to to think about their own self-preservation, I just don't know if Kwesi is that type of guy. Again, I think human nature would tell you that we're all mindful of our own situations. But I mean, this is a guy who's done a lot of different things. I just don't get the feel like he feels like having this job is for him kind of like the ego of everything that he has to have. And again, maybe it's naive of me to say that, but I also think, how is the draft viewed if you take 6 picks and you hit on a third rounder who's like a solid starter versus you take 4 picks and you hit on an interior offensive lineman at 24 who is an absolute stud and a Pro Bowler? Like, how do you evaluate those two?
But he just tried that with Dallas Turner.
Well, there's
right. And to this point, we're not saying Dallas Turner won't work out, but I don't think anybody thought that we'd get the minimal participation that we ended up getting out of Dallas Turner last year. And here's the other thing about why I think self-preservation in this case is more of a thought process for Kwesi than most. GMs almost never get a second chance. Almost never. Coaches coaches go back and get filtered back in. GMs almost never do. Almost never.
It's hard. But again, you said he tried it last year with Dallas Turner. Whatever route they do, whether it is trade back or whether it is stay there, if you don't hit, it doesn't matter. So, I mean, the odds will tell you, the probabilities over time will tell you, if you are picking at 24, you have a higher chance of being right on that player than if you're picking at 34 or 44 or what have you. And he's mindful of those probabilities. But, I mean, there's no question you'd rather have more than 4 picks if you're trying to show a sample of being able to hit.
That's what I'm saying.
But the fact they only have 4 picks is because of the way they've operated in past years. The other aspect that I will mention, and I mentioned on the show last week, I expect them to be very active in the UDFA portion of this draft. Now, when you're signing UDFAs, the chance that those guys become absolute studs is very low. But they have this culture has established the Vikings as a destination for a lot of players in terms of if you're agents, this is where you want your player to be. Which is a big testament to them. Plus they have the money to pay. Right. And agents will have the belief that a guy like Brian Flores or Kevin O'Connell on the offensive side are going to maximize the chance that their player has. So, I mean, I could see it either way. If Kwesi Adofo-Mensah trades down from 24 and creates another day 2 pick or a day 2 pick and a day 3 pick, to me that makes sense as an approach. But the summary, the bottom line, the headline is whatever strategy they take on the night of April 24th or whatever it is, it better work. Regardless, you better be really solid in your evaluation and the players you pick, because it just has to be both for his own preservation, sure, but also for the sustainability of this team for the long term. Like, that is essential as well. You can have the free agencies that they've had, but I have said it, and I will say it till I'm, red in the face, blue in the face, whatever the saying is, like, until you hit consistently in the draft, you're not going to sustain winning over a long period of time.
You have to get rookies under that rookie contract. You have to hit in the draft. There's just no other way. There's no other way to have sustained greatness. You have to eventually.
To me, and you guys were talking positionally earlier, and it's a fascinating discussion. I would peg right now, and I'm where you are, where interior of the offensive line to me would be the leader in the clubhouse. I probably interior the defensive line after that. I think then you start to talk about like safety, DB, that type of situation. But again, we asked Kevin O'Connell at the owners' meetings, like, what do you think about best player available? And he's like, yes, but it has to fit. Like, it's got to be best player available who provides immediate impact if you're picking that early. And I thought that was an important note from him.
Yeah, it's best player available is nice and all, but at the end of the day, teams fill needs. That's almost always.
And you have to. And the way I would think about it is the Vikings are going to know where the prospects, the talent at certain positions, where they can get that talent in certain spots. and then they're going to match that up with the picks that they have. And that's where, again, like, I do think there are interior of the offensive line that you can find from 24 to 34 who could be really solid players for you. Whereas with interior defensive line, it's probably more of a question.
You mentioned UDFA.
Time for one more.
If I were to guess a position that could have an impact UDFA, it's the deepest position in this draft, and that's running back.
Yeah.
You know, this team, I don't think will put one of their 4 picks into running back, but this is a potentially historically deep running back draft, and they're going to be players who fall out of running backs, that fall out of this draft that would traditionally go round 5, round 6, round 7, that are going to be just sitting there for the Vikings. And a third running back could be helpful on this team, because I don't think there is a qualified third running back on this team right now.
Yeah, the spots for me, I mean, for the UDFA plus late round portion, I mean, receiver, I'm monitoring that. I mean, 5th round, 6th round, there's, you know, you trust the evaluation of Keenan McCardell and Kevin O'Connell at that position to find guys who can separate that late. Running back, certainly, it's an astute point. And then I also would say, like, kick returner, punt returner in that type of area.
Jimmy Horn Jr.
Because
doesn't Isaiah Rodgers return kicks?
He has, but if he is your starting cornerback opposite Byron Murphy Jr., I'm not sure you want to put him in that situation. Plus, if the kickoff, if the touchback is moved up to the 35, you could see more kick returns, and that position becomes more valuable. And there are players who might be available in the UDFA portion that can contribute there. So the good part about this draft is the depth of it. And I expect the Vikings to be savvy with how they approach kind of those late round picks in UDFAs.
Anything with the Alec Lewis podcast coming up soon?
No, I mean, yeah, there are shows,
like
but the Athletic as well. We're doing. Yeah. I told Russo, John, Dan Hayes, Gleeman, Joe Smith. I mean, these guys are grinding. I've been watching John's coverage of the ownership.
Talking to David Tepper.
Russo's writing about Nyquist. I mean, we got it's. Dan Hayes is talking about the Twins who somehow can't hit for the. Never mind. I should probably go and
listen to the Alec Lewis podcast provided by our friend Tim Siegley and First Resource Bank at via the free iHeartRadio app. You can listen to it there. We close the feast after this.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
I can't wait until tomorrow. 'Cause tomorrow might very well be too late. I can't wait until tomorrow. 'Cause tomorrow could never come. I know it could end any minute.
Great having you back, man. Paul Charchi and PA in charge, feasting at FM 100.3 KFAN. The program's around the corner. We thank Alec Lewis and Chad Greenway for joining us today. But most importantly, we thank all of you for choosing to listen to KFAN when you do. Great to have you back, Charchi. You're nice and rested and ready to go.
Fresh-faced, I think. A little tan.
And bushy-tailed.
Bushy-tailed. God, who doesn't want bushy-tail? Right. Everybody loves bushy-tail.
Okay. Yeah, with that said, Kara Savage is the producer today for 9 to noon. Nordo returns next week. And thank you very much, everybody, for listening.
Are you going to drop Kara's got to do a rap right now?
She can do a rap on the show if she wants. Producing's an art, and I'm a Picasso, but of course, why else would I try so hard to paint a picture? I think it will start like that. Have good times this weekend. God bless everybody. Thank you for listening to The Fan. I'm Paul Allen. Bye-bye.
By going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets, with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.